I'm happy to welcome you here in TT217. That's the tomb of the sculptor Ipuy in the el-Medina, and it's one of the 53 decorated tombs on site. So in this season we focused on 3 different aspects. One was the cleaning of the courtyard and relocation of the shaft of the entire architecture of the tomb. The second in this season is the work on our wall fragments. So we are here in the beautiful decorated chapel of Ipouy. That's the name of the ancient owner, and you can see him behind me on the wall. And these 1,000 fragments belonged mainly to this decorated room, and it's built out of Muna mud bricks. It's an interesting technique because the tomb is a rock-cut room consisting of 10 rooms in total, going into the rock for about 20 meters, and only the first room is decorated. But because the rock quality is so poor, in antiquities they had to rebuild mud brick rooms inside the rock-cut rooms, and that's exactly the room we are in here now. And that's also the reason why we have so many fragments, because in antiquity the rock collapsed at some point, the ceiling was destroyed, and this is the reason for these many wall fragments. At the same time, they are beautifully preserved, and in many cases they can be relocated. And my team has now the tasks of restoration, drawing, measurements, and myself the relocation. We do that also with photogrammetry and digital methods. So TT217 is special in various regards. First, it's one of the rare polychrome decorated chapels at the entire site, and the only one of the 53 decorated tombs which shows daily life scenes compared to all of the others. Normally, in a tomb decoration in the el-Medina, you would meet the deceased, the tomb owner, as you can see in my back, with his family, with different offerings and preparations for eternity, and the deceased in front of different gods, as you have on the other side. In TT217, you also see many details of different professionals at work. So we have, for example, the laundryman in the corner preparing the cloths for drying and doing the actual washing process, and there are only 3 further tombs in pharaonic Egypt showing such a scene. Unfortunately, the most famous scene of this tomb is only preserved in fragments. It showed 4 gardeners at work with a shadouf. It's a very ancient technique, attested also only in 4 other tombs in Egypt. And this scene was intact until 1909, and because I have photos in the Archivio di Stato in Turin. And in 1913, these are the oldest black and white photos in this tomb. The wall was unfortunately destroyed. But now we rediscovered these fragments again, and also by comparison of the historical documents, we can actually reconstruct this missing wall nowadays. The tomb is mainly quoted also for the technique of carpentry and the production of funerary items, because Ipouy was apparently much interested in showing all these individual tasks in a very realistic manner. So you can see how the funerary items like coffins and mummy masks are produced, and even one of his sons supervises these processes because the inscriptions show his name and title. Besides, you have an entire agricultural development from fishing techniques, the production of the food, the preparation for storage, but also the delivery and the marketplace, the trading of these scenes, and also the transport by boat to the final customers, so to say. And on top of that, these individuals are highly realistic, also in concerns about their names and titles. Usually they are just standardized individuals of the lower social spectrum, so no one was interested in depicting them with a name. And here we know, in comparison with the administrative texts from the settlement, that these people definitely lived 3,000 years ago, and they brought the fish, as shown with the fisherman called Nia here. And it fits also in the time frame, so it's all in the very early reign of Ramses II. So the tomb's chapel was probably decorated between year 5 and year 50 of Ramses II, comparing many different documents which were found either by cleaning of the courtyard in the 1920s or by prosopographic reconstruction of the tomb owner's family. So in this season we worked on the restoration and also the first documentation, like measurements, drawings, and also the first tried to relocate the fragments, which were mainly discovered by Norman de Garris Davis shortly before the First World War, but mainly afterwards. And he stored the fragments in 3 boxes, which I discovered in the last year in the tomb. And of course, this is not a proper way how to keep fragments from a modern perspective in archaeology. That's why we now got new containers to preserve them after restoration. So we have now the after restoration process, and they got all, depending on the size, different compartments. So for example, you have here a fragment showing one of the fish on the scenes inside, and most of them can be actually relocated to its previous location. So here, for example, we have one of the dogs from the famous gardener scenes. So we designed it a bit more efficiently, so you can actually have different compartments depending on the size. So the smallest fragments are on top and the bigger ones go in the lower compartment. So we have 3 compartments per box for now. And as we have thousands of fragments, I think we will continue a little bit more. 4 boxes are not enough for now. The fragments are usually in a very good condition. Already in the last year, it was just needed to clean them by an airbrush, basically. But some of them needed a proper treatment and also a little bit of fixing it again with either Muna, modern Muna, but we tried to use the same techniques as it was done in ancient times regarding the modern restoration process. So, Oase is my restorer in the team, and he is responsible for the cleaning, if needed, also consolidation and further treatment. It's discussed on an individual basis per object. And after he is done, we proceed with registration. So we have a big registration office now because all of them are numbered, labeled individually so that they can be identified. And that's Alina, Basel student assistant. And she is the mistress of thousands of numbers by now and has to redirect each of us that we can definitely identify the piece again. Then we process with the 2 colleagues' drawings. So Martina is an Egyptologist, a PhD candidate at the University of Leipzig, and she prepares most of the drawings for the statues and the 3-dimensional objects. And Rachel is a former master candidate from the University of Basel, and she is specialized on Osheptis. We also found 2 of them in this season, and is also now drawing wall fragments from 217. So you have clusters of families in the village, but you also have clusters of families in the tombs. So the tomb Cedric works on, 216, is a famous one because it's one of the biggest monuments on sites, and it was prepared for the foreman of the right side, called Neferhotep. He was a super influential guy because the entire crew of workmen was divided into 2 halves. You had always a foreman, a deputy, normal workmen, and specialists. And Ipouy was a specialist. But Ipouy was lacking a link with a family, because he was a newcomer coming from outside. So his link actually is his wife. His wife comes from a family which has a long tradition in the village. Her name is Dua Emerides, and she was the link for Ipouy to get a place for his tomb at this upper terrace, because her family is linked to the family clan of Neferhotep, and so they have these family clusters now, all people working for the right side in the north, and all people working for the left side, having a family tomb in the south. So social-wise, you have the king, who was the most important man for this settlement, because the main purpose of el-Medina was constructing the royal tombs. So he was the employer of everyone. He paid them. And, but he was not there on a daily basis. Only some of his administrators or deputies coming for visits, like the vizier. But in the settlement, the scribe of the tomb was the boss. He organized everything. And for each side, so you have on the left and the right side, you had a foreman, like Neferhotep, with Cedric. And then you have the deputies, and then you have the normal workmen, like the sculptors like Ipouy, a highly skilled specialist doing the relief in the royal tombs. And you have many family members, like children, women, retired men, other family members. And you have a very large group of supply personnel depicted in this tomb, bringing food like fish, water, pottery, doing the laundry for them. So it was actually quite a convenient life, because this was all organized by the state, by the government, to smoothen the progress working in the royal tombs. So that these families do not have to care about these daily life matters. They are completely supplied with everything. They can focus entirely on building the monuments.